Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back for another amazing time with Deanna and I.
Woo!
Oh, Deanna, I don't know about you, but hanging out in the north again, up here in Madison, Wisconsin. Spring is springing. Spring
It
has
is.
sprung, and it is so nice.
It is. I think it's nice that, you go up more north, and you still have to deal with the winter, but you also get to see more of the seasons because you get better contrast between them. So, like when spring is here, you know it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find, for me personally, I find that there's not the big seasons up here in this part of the north. I find that the seasons are like when I was living in Sedona,
Hmm.
those were very distinct seasons. I found those to be very distinct here. Winter for me, of course, this is coming from a whole nother perspective because Southerner,
Hmm.
but those winters are just so long. It's
Yeah.
hard to tell where fall and spring end and begin. It just
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
feels like a lot of winter.
There is a big blur, but when you can look at once you're firmly in one, like winter kind of goes until, well, let me see, it's the end of April, and I had my winter coat on last night and no coat on yesterday afternoon. So winter kind of blurs into May, but then there will be a day when you wake up in May and you're like, it is definitely over because the switch. But I think I understand where you're coming from because in Sedona where it's warm, when it gets cold, it's noticeable.
Hmm.
But also, when it gets to be 40 degrees up here, you're going to see people outside in shorts in the
Yes,
springtime because, 40 degrees
it's
in New
not that big of a
York
deal.
can sometimes feel like summer when you've been dealing with below zero freezing
Negatives,
temperatures for months.
yes.
So, yeah, yeah,
It's
but
all perspective. That's why I said just for me
yeah,
and my perspective from yeah, it's
yeah.
all perspective. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a picture I took, but my background is a picture I took of a tree in bloom at some point in the spring, probably last year. And I thought, well, that's appropriate because today it's sunny and warm. Who knows what tomorrow will bring, but that's what today is. So
Yeah, yeah.
hopefully
And
people who are watching are somewhere where it's always nice and pleasant and you don't have to go from winter clothes to summer clothes within the span of 8 hours. But hey, yeah.
I did that yesterday. I totally
Mhm.
changed clothes like three different times trying to, because first I was shedding and then I was like, okay, time to put them back on
Yep.
because we
Yep.
were outside doing things and yeah, it was just a fabulous day. So
Yeah.
we spent a lot of time out in the garden yesterday. We were doing a lot of gardening. It was amazing.
Nice. Very
Being able
nice.
to kind of get your hands in the dirt and do all that. Oh, just such a good time.
Yes, that's on my list of
Uh,
something in the next few days.
some
Um,
gardening.
yeah, yeah. Now, yesterday here it was kind of gray and windy and overcast, but I did not get a chance to be outside yesterday because I was involved in a really cool event.
Well, that's what I was gonna say is what were you up to yesterday?
Yeah, we had one of our prominent metaphysical practitioners up here in Rochester, New York, organized with another awesome prominent metaphysical practitioner. They organized a practitioner's day, which was a chance for those of us in the healing and such realm to get together and show what we have and not we weren't selling, we weren't doing, we were just kind of talking about what we do and sharing with both the public and each other. So we found community in what we do in like a really big way yesterday that just for
Hmm.
those few hours we were all walking around talking to each other about what we do, sharing contact information, sharing ideas, sharing our time, our energy, and just networking to realize that our community coming together is so strong. I mean, Rochester has a fairly decent size metaphysical community, Rochester and the surrounding areas, but there's not always a sense of cohesiveness when, some people this is their life business, right? You have to make money somehow. But we're in it because we want to help, right? For me,
Hmm.
this isn't something I do to pay my bills because It wouldn't do it. But we're all out to help at the baseline. What we're doing is we're doing this because we want to help. And bringing so many of us together in one space. I mean, the vibe there was crazy insane. The energy was bouncing. But also just to get to know other people who are doing things similar, the same, or really different from what we're doing and learning that kind of I talked to somebody there and it was like, it's not we don't have to do everything the same way, but we're all working to the same outcome, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
it was amazing. And one of the really interesting things is remember they did that game or whatever it was, the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon or something, where you could determine it was like you could determine within 6 relationships if you're somehow connected to Kevin Bacon somehow. It was a game that they used to play. It's probably on the internet, and I'm probably dating myself for when that was. But like you could say, well, I knew this person who knew this person who was related to this person who knew this person who knew him. It was just a game people would play. And I mean, you could do it with
Yeah,
anything,
no,
but
I actually don't remember that.
oh my God, yes. It was a thing. Some of you listening might remember it. If not, I'm totally not making this up. You can Google it. But but it was interesting to find out how many people you didn't know personally, but you knew kind of because somebody else you knew them. So there were all
Mm,
these like interconnected connections that I was finding of like, I mean, I spent a good portion of time talking to somebody who I had never met before. She had never met me, but we know Dr. Thomas is a friend of our podcast that I work with healing.
hmm.
He knew her. And it was like, my God, that is just such an unexpected connection because they both look surprised to see each other too. And then other people that I was talking to who we had friends in common or we knew about something that, or we had both been at the same place at some point in time. And those connections that you don't know are there until you're actually in a place where you can discover them. And it's like, well, this is all kind of working together. It's all
Mm,
this cohesiveness coming together to build this community and to allow this community to shine the light and to do the good works to help humanity as we move along this ascension path and these, well, we live in some chaotic times right now and those of us that are here to heal are working our hardest to help bring that healing and it starts on an individual level but then it expands out like ripples in a pond and just finding those connections, right? That you didn't even know that you had there. Mind blowing. It was so amazing just to, and honestly, there wasn't a lot of public in there, but all of us that were there really had a chance to talk and get to know and see what else is going on. But, I talked to a few people about maybe doing collaborations on events and things like this. It was just an amazing experience. And it was so affirming to see so many of us are working for the same goal, no matter how we do it. We're working for the
hmm.
same goal, right? We're all walking to the
Hmm.
same path. Maybe we're just taking different directions and detours and whatnot. So yeah, I found that really great to see the connections and to really come together.
Good.
hmm
That sounds amazing.
It really was. It really was. I know I was just talking to the person this morning who put it together. I'm like, thank you so much for doing this. And honestly, I encourage it everywhere. If anyone's listening from wherever you're listening from, something like this is really affirming and it really shows you connections that you didn't even realize that you had. And it just makes the community one of cohesion instead of competition, which I don't really feel that much here in my area anyways, but it's out there.
Mm,
It's out there.
yeah,
So yeah, that was what I did yesterday and just made a whole bunch of connections that I somehow had already made in other pathways.
that's amazing. Good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Sounds like exactly a great segue into what we're talking about today with synchronicities. So
Yes, it
it sounds
does.
like you had a few of those.
I did
Mm,
because when you think about synchronicity and you wonder like, is it being directed? Is it something that some larger force is putting people together? Or is it that like attracts like? And you eventually realize the connection. And maybe if you're looking for the connection, you find it easier. I don't know.
I had somebody one time, one of the things that I don't know about other people, I'm going to speak for myself. And a friend of mine and I were talking about one time is how to know when synchronicities are really synchronicities. And what I mean by that is we've all known that person, and I've even been this person a couple of times. It, it, but there's a feeling behind it. But you can just see a leaf blow a certain way, and that's a synchronicity. At the same time, like I like billboards. I like to know without a doubt that that's the synchronicity I'm looking for.
Mhm.
And I get those. I get billboards because that's what I ask for. I need clear, definitive signs that this is happening and showing up, and this is what you were talking about when what I'm meaning is, connections with spirit, with universe, you
Mhm.
know, for myself. But sometimes, I mean, how do you define synchronicities?
Me? Um,
Yeah. Like for
it's
yourself, how, or like if you were to talk to somebody else, how do you define synchronicities?
I think to me it's kind of I don't think it's determined. I think it's kind of a way to show you they happen, and it's a reaffirmation that you're on the right path, or you're doing the right thing, or you're where you're supposed to be, because things happen that synchronicities, they support it, right? Like meeting people that knew people that I knew that are all in the same kind of community increases the community, right? Increases my personal community, increases that person's personal community, which then increases the whole thing and brings people together. So I don't believe in coincidence. So I think synchronicity is a much better description of when things like that happen, because I don't think coincidence is coincidence. I think synchronicity is a way of showing that it's a way of finding that you're on the right path. And that can be, like you said, when you see the leaf moving or the leaf blowing, some people are going to call that an omen, right? Some people are going to call that a sign. Some people are going to call it a synchronicity. Kind of all in the same realm of things. That's how I think of it.
I I mostly my definition is mostly the same as yours.
Hmm.
Mine is the variance is that I find fate is kind of like when we come into this planet, there are certain things, and it doesn't matter who you speak to or whatever. How can I say this? It is from my learns, all the learning and all the knowledge that I've gained and the experiences that I've had, that when you come into this planet, you come in with a little bit of an idea of what your life is going to be like. It doesn't have to be exactly these things. It can be variances of that because of free will.
Hmm.
However, there are certain things that are going to happen, and AKA like mile markers, or maybe there's certain goals that we create for ourselves. And fate is kind of where those, you're getting to this mile marker, you're getting to that goal. And synchronicities are what, and again, this is just my interpretation, and synchronicities are those little things that happen that let you know you are on the path to reaching whatever that goal marker fated thing is.
Hmm.
That's kind
Right.
of
So
how
that's
I look
similar.
at it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very similar to what yours is. Yeah,
Right.
we're in the same realm.
Yeah, yeah, but fate's an interesting concept too when you think about it.
I agree.
Huh. Um, because are we really fated if we have choice and free will? Just a thought.
Yes, there's just things that we have to actually go through.
So are we,
That's the interesting thing is because, and this is where I find that it gets a little, I'm gonna move my screen just a tiny bit. There we go. And this is where I find that it gets a little nuanced and yeah, it gets a little convoluted, if you will, Because what determines fate versus the plan that you came in with versus how do you know it's like I have these goals that I want to achieve? How do I know that those are my goals versus what I'm supposed to be doing?
Right. And I think that, oh, there's so much to touch on in that. Um,
That opens up a big can of
yeah,
worms.
I mean, I don't see fate as a predetermined destiny because if that were the case, then we would not have free will. But on the other side of that coin, we have free will to do whatever we want and we're still going to reach the same fate is another
It's
way of
just how you
thinking.
get
It,
there.
it
Yeah.
all kind of depends, but I do believe we come in with an idea of some of the things that we're going to do.
Mhm.
Right now, there's a whole lot of healing going on, and there's a whole lot of healing coming in, and the new generation coming in without their karma and all that stuff that's going on right now, given the changes that we're really close to undergoing. Um, so we come in with a purpose or a mission. There's a whole nother hour could be about what purpose versus mission versus why are you here. But we come in with something in our mind spiritually as to what we're here for, what we want to do. And that's at that, like, I think we might have been talking once, I can't remember, about you get to a point in your life when all of a sudden you're like, that's what it's supposed to be. You open up, or
Mhm.
if you're star seed and it opens up to you and you realize, oh, okay, this is it. We hit that point, whether we're 10 years old or 100 years old or anywhere, we get to a point where we realize it, but we still have choice through the whole thing because you can walk away from anything because you're not tied down to anything when you're here. You do what seems right at the time, or you do what you're called to do. And if you come in with the idea or the mission or the fill in the blank of I'm going to do this in this lifetime. This is my main theme of this lifetime. You can still walk away from it because the one thing that humanity is granted is free will, and I think that goes
Mhm.
beyond humanity. I think that goes into divinity. Is there's always free will.
Mhm.
Um, so then is fate predestined, and if it's predestined, is it free will? Oh, I always get hung up on that. That's the hang up place, is that maybe fate isn't so much a guaranteed outcome. It's a potential outcome among many potential outcomes, depending on the synchronicities that you experience before you get there.
Well, and you can always change. I mean, you maybe your main lesson that you come in with is how to love. Like your main thing is like that's the lesson you're supposed to get out of this lifetime is
Hmm.
true altruistic love, right? And I'm just throwing an example
Yeah.
out there. And then you end up being because of whatever and whatever happens in your life, maybe you end up becoming a mass murderer,
Hmm.
or a serial killer, and you a version of like Jack the Ripper or something like that, and I'm just using these so that we
Yeah.
can see. Well, you didn't get that message.
Or you did
And
in
then,
your
or
Okay.
maybe that's your love.
Or maybe
Like,
you're
and
acting as a
that's
catalyst.
and that's your free will to not do that. So I don't know. There's so many different ways you can look at that because again,
Yeah.
if you have love for killing, who am I to tell you that that's not what you should be doing?
Well, I mean, if you're a mass murderer and you came here to help teach the lesson of love,
Then you didn't.
maybe that is the path you took. It's an extreme
Hmm.
one, but that teaches the message to the people that are affected by the horrendous acts you do.
Exactly. You
Maybe,
can't.
and that doesn't excuse the horrendous acts. So I don't want anyone commenting that I agree with serial killers and ex murderers, because that's not the case. But what we're
No, you
talking
just
on
have to
on a spiritual level. We're not saying that anyone who goes out and causes anyone else harm is not
is okay.
responsible, or
Right.
is because that's never the right way, the good way. But maybe I mean, that's not even the right thing. That's judgmental. It's not the way that is most beneficial. But perhaps
Exactly.
for some people it gets to the point, or perhaps the situation gets to the point where something terrible has to happen to alter the entire course. We're living in chaos right now. There are
I was gonna say,
terrible
case in
things
point with what
that
we're living through.
listen, there was a 9-year-old child shot in my city yesterday, okay?
Mm,
By somebody who was apparently out of jail and was somehow released on some parole program that shot a child, okay? At the same time, they found re human remains of somebody that's been missing for almost a year. All this yesterday, okay?
mm,
Maybe it was the day before, but all this in one day. Those are not good things. Those are not life affirming things that happened, right? But in this chaos, maybe the chaos itself is growing to get us to where we need to be to come together or to change the broken parts of things. And that's where we're headed in this ascension. The world has tried to do this before, it hasn't worked.
yeah.
This time it looks like it just might. There's enough of us here right now seriously doing the work. I mean, the whole metaphysical community is just exploding. There's so much more out there now than there was. I mean, 20 years, 30 years ago, or whenever the New Age movement started, and all of a sudden everyone went from the hippies who were starting it, I think. And maybe before that, maybe there was more, there was always something there, but it really exploded since probably the 70s, which I'm realizing is a lot more than 30 years ago right now. But it
Yeah,
was
don't remind me either.
I know.
I
I'm
hear what
Gen
you're
X.
saying, but
Gen X, we think the 70s was 30 years ago and the 80s were 20 years ago, and that's just how it is. But
in my head it still
yeah,
is. I know I
yeah,
struggle
yeah.
myself, Deanna. I feel
But
you.
a lot of that stuff kind of really exploded, and with the internet, just when that came out, that really pushed it farther into a whole new awakening. And there is a spiritual awakening happening in our earth, on our earth right
Hmm.
now, in a bigger, I think it's bigger than ones we've seen before,
Yeah,
and
this one.
these come after these terrible events. And the thing is, this time it's coming during instead of after. Maybe even a little before instead of after. And maybe that's the key to,
And
yeah,
yeah, and how do we know that? We know that because we can see the synchronicities
right,
aligning because you and I personally have lived on this planet long enough to see the history starting to repeat in
right.
certain ways. And
Oh
we
yeah.
can see all the things that are coming.
And the things that still haven't changed. The wars that have been going on forever in one form or another, the same wars are being fought, the same terrible things are happening, the atrocities, all that bad stuff that I don't really want to bring that energy to our podcast, but using it as a contrast to show that the things that are happening to bring people together now, the synchronicities as it might be, may alter a fate.
Mm,
And in that way, is fate really destined if it can be altered?
mm,
I mean, we're working to save the spiritual life. I don't know. I don't even know if that's the right statement to say, but we're working to heal, right? And in many of us are out there doing this. And we're actively working with energy and with spirit and with guides and with intergalactic and all this stuff that many of us are doing. Maybe this time it will end good. It feels like it will end good. The general consensus is that it will end good, at least from where I am and what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing.
oh yeah. The
Yeah,
ending will be amazing. It's just we got to get
yeah,
through all the stuff in between before we can get to the end. But
right.
I
Which,
know the end
which,
is going to be great.
but it makes you consider, is fate always predestiny? Because it hasn't worked before, and people tried, and people thought they were going to do okay.
I
So
think it is.
I think it's going to work too, but the fact that we're working at it shows us that it's not fate. It's
I
not
think
predestined because we can change it. We are changing it.
so what
Which,
I'm hearing you say is that fate is solid and immovable.
No, I'm saying that fate can be
As
changed. I'm saying that
see,
fate
yeah,
is
I think
not
this.
predestined because we
Hmm.
can change it. The world's on a path right
Just be
now.
Okay, so how about we go here? Just because it doesn't happen in that timeline and we say kick it back 10 years, like we push it back, is it still not predetermined?
If it can be changed, how can it be predetermined?
Hmm. Because it's still eventually happening. It's just the
If
how.
it can be changed, it's not happening.
It's still happening just 10 years later.
If the world is fated to explode in 10 years with a nuclear bomb
And we avoid it.
and we avoid it, did we change fate and destiny, therefore prove that it's not necessarily predetermined and written in stone?
But then what if it happens 3 years later?
What it was it fate because it was meant to happen
So it
at a different
happens.
time? But that's the point. What if?
I know.
What if it doesn't? Like if you are driving your
That's a
car,
good question.
if you're driving your car and you always turn left to go home, but you decide to turn right and get some ice cream on your way home, and you by doing that avoided a four-car pileup that everybody died in, did you change your fate?
That's the question.
Right. That's the question. I mean,
Hmm.
there's no way to truly answer it. All we can do is talk about what we believe
I know.
and
Yeah,
all
I
that we
agree.
can see, because if we could see the bigger picture, we wouldn't be in this human body right now. We'd already be back with the divine and back in spirit and working from that side of the veil, or, wherever we happen to be, what side of the universe. But it's really interesting to think about
Hmm.
predetermination, fate, synchronicity, and how they all blend together. And do they change things? Is the fate of our world always been to ascend in the year that it's going to ascend? And every other attempt to stop what was going on to help it happen failed because it was fated to, because it's not the determined time? Or is the determined time not written in stone and able to be changed?
That's the question.
And because that's the question, we continue to work for the positive change.
Yeah. And we just do the synchronicities. I don't know. I've been experiencing a lot of synchronicities lately, and it's
Hmm.
kind of been really energizing for myself.
Absolutely. It's so affirming.
Yeah, it has been. It's been like do 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 do, and I'm like, hmm. Yeah, just interesting. That was my talk this morning.
Yeah,
I
no,
woke up
I
kind
mean,
of a little bit philosophical, or kind of thinking. Um, I don't know. I love philosophical conversations, and it's just
yeah,
kind of where just wondering because sometimes, like I said, you can see a leaf fall and people will say that that's fate. And I'm like, tell me more how that's or synchronicity or something, like that's a sign. And I'm like, tell me more. How is that leaf falling a sign for you? However,
right.
on the flip side, I know that I've been that person because I had a leaf specifically fly in through a window of a vehicle that I was just thinking about buying.
Mm,
And I was like, oh, is that a sign? And, I kind of questioned myself and I was like, is that a sign? Be damned if another leaf didn't fall or
yep.
float straight into the vehicle again. And I was like, okay, well, two in through one window. That's happening.
Right, right. And I
So,
mean, some people call it an omen, some people call it a sign. It's
hmm,
however you want to, really the definite or the word is interchangeable,
I agree. Yeah.
and I think that I don't know. I don't know. The best philosophical discussions are the ones that don't have answers, because you can continuously discuss them until you come up with what feels right to you. And you still don't know. But you
Yeah.
have
And
you have your feeling about it and you have your reasons why, and that's what's fun about it, I
yeah. And I
guess.
just look at synchronicities as though they let me know that I'm in alignment with where I'm supposed to be going. Like, okay,
Exactly.
yes, you're on the right path. Yes, you're on the right path. Yes. They feel like exactly what you said, affirming.
Yes. Yes. And that's what
Hmm.
I look for. I look for affirmations that, I'm doing a good job or that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. That even if I'm not doing a good job, at least I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that when you meet people like I did, or you see the leaves in your car like you did, those are the kinds of things that make you go, okay, I'm feeling really good about where I am right now. My spirit feels good about where I am right now.
Hmm.
My decisions are coming from a place of knowing that I'm making them with my heart and with my mind and with my soul. And that's what it boils down to. I mean, that's the most important thing. And predestined or not, which I still don't really think we are, but predestined or not, this is where we are right now. And this is
Hmm.
this is what we are living in, and this is where we came. And we did all come for a reason, and we did all come on purpose.
Hmm.
And sometimes we never find out what that is. We never find out what our mission is or what our plan was or whatever word you want to use for that. And sometimes we know right away. And sometimes we find it after a long search. Who knows? It's the journey. It's the journey that's the important part. And then when we get to the place that we had decided we were working for all along and we didn't even realize it, we have that aha moment. And then we see
Hmm.
the synchronicities and we see how everything has come together to bring us to the place that we are. So if you're not seeing the synchronicities or you're not sure where you're going or you're not knowing where you're going,
That's
don't give
okay
up
too.
because you're going to know it when you get there. And the
Hmm.
whole thing is walking the path. The whole thing is the journey to get there because that's where you pick up the lessons that you need to be able to do whatever it is you're trying to walk towards. And you can change your mind. Everyone can change their mind.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
So if you want
Yeah.
to go back to college and you're in your 50s, go. Why not?
Yeah. Well, we'll call it not
Not
quite
that I'm,
50s, but yeah.
not that I'm thinking about taking more classes,
Well,
but
because
yeah.
I was laughing because I just finished all of mine, as everyone knows, last year. So yeah, and I was not young when I went through all of that again. So yeah,
No, I didn't seriously go to college till I was almost 40. So, you know what? You do it in the time that's right for you.
you
And
do.
when you're trying to make a decision, that's what you look for, the signs that you're doing the right thing. And some people get really upset. And I mean, I've had clients tell me, but I don't see a sign. I don't see anything that's telling me what to do. And the answer is nothing is going to tell you what to do. That's the part you have to decide. And when you decide what you want to do, then you get your messages of either yes or rethink it. Make a decision first. And then you're going to see how it plays out. And if you can't make a decision or you're trying to do something and you're stuck, right? You don't know, do I do A, do I do B? Like the Two of Swords, where she's got her arms crossed with the swords and
Hmm.
she's got a blindfold on. You have to set down your choices and step back and take off your blindfold. And you need to look at a situation from a global perspective, a more objective instead of subjective. So you have to look at the whole thing, not just the parts that affect you, not just the parts that you've been looking at, because we all have blinders like this. When you take the
Hmm.
blinders off and you can see more, you have a better chance of making whatever decision or choosing whatever path that feels right, right? And if you still can't choose, unless you're actively hurting somebody or being destructive, you're not going to make the wrong choice because there is no wrong choice because choices are free will.
And as long as you do what makes your heart sparkle, you
Right.
can never go wrong. Just
Right.
and that is something that I learned even before I heard Bashar teaching
Mm-hmm.
that. It's part of Bashar teachings.
Yep.
Do how does I forget exactly how
Live to
they
your
say it.
highest excitement is
Yeah,
what he
just do
says.
what
Yeah.
brings, yeah, do your joy or do what brings you joy and the most excitement in the moment. And
Yep.
I call it whatever makes your heart sparkle, that's what
Yep.
ye shall do. As long as it makes your heart sparkle, you're doing what's in your best interest. Period. End of story.
And like a super easy practical way to do that is to flip a coin if you have two
Hmm.
things. And when you get your answer for whichever one it is, listen really hard to how you felt when you saw that was the answer.
Yeah, if it lands on heads and you didn't like that answer, you realize, oh, I actually did want the tails side of things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then go that route.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. Go that
Right.
route.
Right. Right. And
Mhm.
it all comes down to like people go to like tarot card readings or mediums or psychics or healers and all this stuff. And the only thing nobody's going to tell you what to do. And if they do, walk away because nobody can tell you what to do. People are going to help you come up with ideas. My tarot card readings are ways to help you deal with the situations that you're in and ways to help
Hmm.
you look at things different. That Two of Swords comes up so much when people are trying to make decisions. And it's ways to help you decipher what you're actually telling yourself versus what you're actually saying, right? Because we may be saying one thing and our internal narrative is something totally different. Well, how do you got to make those jive together? Or you have to listen to what you're saying to yourself. And is that the real story, right? Is that your intuition and your
Exactly.
gut speaking? Usually it is. Um, so it comes back to fate again. And if you think that everything is predetermined, then no decision should even be second thought. Because if you're like, well, I'm going to end up here no matter what I do, then you're going to do anything at all. And that may not actually be the most positive way to live because you're going to be careless, or you'll get out there and do wonderful things. Or maybe you'll be like, well, it doesn't matter. If I'm going to die when I'm 35, I don't care what I do. Is that affirming? Or is that more of a defeatist, right?
Hmm. It
Affirming
can
or
be both.
defeatist.
I can
It can
see
be
both
both. It
sides of
depends
that.
what it depends what
Hmm.
you decide to do with your time, right? Are you gonna
Hmm.
do something that benefits yourself, your loved ones, humanity, or does something positive that makes you feel good? Or are you gonna say, screw it, I'm just gonna like get high for the next however many years because that's all I want to
It
do.
doesn't matter. Yeah.
It's whatever. But if you look at fate as, well, this is just a possibility, this isn't the final outcome. Like one of my best friends just got told that he is completely cured, not cured, he's completely clear of cancer after going through chemotherapy. Yes, he's got to do like checkups, and yes, he's got a few years before he's considered cured, but all the tumors are gone. Before chemo, all the tumors were there, and it felt like that was the fate. So he changed what would have been an outcome to a different outcome. So you can't
Hmm.
say that fate, to
What if
me,
the fate was just the experience of that?
possibly, possibly. But we in
Just
human
going through that
brain,
experience.
right, and
Because
that
of
could have
what
been,
changed and what learns did they have from that?
right. In our human mind, though, we like to box things up and make them
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
and organized and well defined. And as somebody who survived cancer, I'll say that when you get that diagnosis, your first thought is, okay, so I might die, or I'm going
Hmm.
to die,
I
right?
remember.
And yeah, and then what you learn, not everybody, some of us learn is to say, no, I'm not. Am I changing my fate? I don't know.
I guess for me, I think sometimes because, having communicated with universe as much as what I feel so special to do, I think it's bigger things. I think like you said, with humans, we like to compartmentalize. We like to put everything in beautiful little packages with pretty little bows and make it all make sense. You
Mm-hmm.
know, really, the things are bigger. Like, did you learn to love? Did you learn to overcome something? Did you learn, like those big, when I think of fate, I think of them as kind of a bigger picture
Mm-hmm.
thing, item.
I can
So
see
it's
that.
very
Yeah.
interesting, so I don't know, just fascinating. And I say, you were talking about through your work, how you cannot predict anything, of course. That's why I love what I do, is because
Mm-hmm.
we do hold all the answers within.
Yep.
And what I do is I help you find those answers. I dig them out of you.
You
You
do.
know,
Yeah,
I be digging. Ooh, that sounded weird.
it
Okay, I
did, but I know what you
recognize that.
meant.
Okay.
We're not going to edit that
Okay.
out, by the way. We'll just keep going.
No, we don't edit here. Yeah, but and I recognize that that did sound a little weird, but through questioning,
Right.
I do so much questioning that I feel like I help people get to those answers
Yeah, but
of what's within.
what you do is pull in the person's own higher self.
Exactly.
So
It's
they're
that big
actually
picture.
they're making their own answers. They're just the ones that they maybe didn't hear. I know when
Yeah.
I went through and my higher self came through, that was amazing. It's just amazing experience.
Yeah.
And so, but it's still coming from that same soul connection. You know, the higher self might be up here somewhere in the universe, and you're still right here, stuck on the earth plane. But when you bring them to talk, you're getting the answers. Is that intuition? I don't know. I mean, I think your intuition comes from your higher self, but that's me.
Right, right. And then as long as you stay walking that path and staying in alignment, that's when all those that's when the magic happens and the
Mm-hmm.
synchronicities are just a sparking and one of my favorite words, kismet.
Kismet.
I love
Yes.
some kismet. It's one of my
Mm-hmm.
favorite words. Yeah,
Yeah.
kismet. And all of that stuff starts happening. So yeah, just an interesting little topic for today. I was like,
Yeah.
synchronicities.
Yeah,
Hmm.
well, this is an interesting conversation. I look forward to hearing people's comments about it.
Yeah, I do
Because
too.
there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. There's just the answer that fits for each individual. You know, I'm not saying anything I said as the only truth. I'm saying it's my truth. You're
Yeah,
saying your truth. So,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. So before we go, I was doing some meditation this morning and talking to my
Okay.
guides a little bit, and I did write down a message that they gave me to share, and I would love to share that here. So I'm literally going to read it because I wrote it
Game
down.
on.
Um, and of course, I wrote it on my phone, so it will be hard for me to see. Um, but it was interesting. And I took what they said to me and I phrased it into human, like us, like coming from person to person. It wasn't from like the divine, but the words, most of them are what I got. I mean, even as I was writing, like I'm hearing, no, no, change that to this. This is the right word. This is what we meant. So I'm just going to read this and
Okay,
take from it what you will, but this will be kind of our, I think would be our good closing thing today. So
let's do it.
this is the message. It says, there is a curse and beauty in this human experience. We are blessed to feel a range of emotion. Stepping out of the love throb that is divinity, we experience the dichotomy of joy and sorrow, peace and unrest, love and loss, yet still we go on. We persevere through the painful times in search of soothing grace. We dance through the joyous times with some form of awareness of the risk of losing all, yet still we dance. Learning to live in the moment is at heart the biggest individual lesson of this messy human experience. In the divine state, we are all things, all times, and thus joy is unlimited and never ending. But in this moment of this life, we are on the balance of a fulcrum, moving through all states of emotion without the divine recognition of eternity, except as an impenetrable concept not fully realized in this mortal state. Yet still we move forward, knowing through that strong filament of connection that there is something somewhere bigger than us, and we carry each other on the path towards home, journeying through the highs and lows that are the unique human experience, knowing that we are moving forward into something bigger, something more, something eternal that draws us forward and gives life to each beat of our hearts. So go forward in love, in joy, in sorrow or sadness, and know that beneath it all, supporting and elevating the truth and the shining light is you at your core. The universe conspires to help you remember, to remind you that in fact, the feelings of loss, of sorrow, or pain only exist as a testament to the fact that it is all love and ever will be. Without darkness, how does one know to celebrate light? This is the lesson. Be the messy, unique human that you are at this moment. Surf the highs and lows and take the lessons with you. And when at last you arrive home, Know that for it all, you have learned that love is the only true state. So I think I shall leave that with you from
I
spirit.
love that one.
Yes, that was a good one to, that was a good meditation this morning. So please feel free to share your comments, share your thoughts. Love to hear them. If you got something you want to be on the podcast, leave us a message. We do respond. We do check them. We'll get back to you. And I think it's about time to get out there and enjoy
Until
some
then.
weather. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. And until then,
Be
ha-
blessed. Be blissed.
and we'll
And
see you next
we'll
time.
see ya.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.